War Games!
I know I used that same intro in last year's War Games review, and I don't care. Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with your review for NXT TakeOver War Games 2020. I just got done watching the show, have a lot to say about that, so we'll begin. First of all, I have to say I appreciate the pyro spraying through the corners of the cage. We open up with the Women's War Games match as Team Shotzi Blackheart takes on Team Candice LeRae. Shotzi makes her grand entrance in a brand new, bigger tank with a rocket launcher, and it plays 14 different sounds and phrases. Shotzi Blackheart action figure sold separately. Dakota Kai and Ember Moon start things off. Ember suplexing Kai into the side of the cage, hitting a brutal looking crossbody through the ropes. Kai knocks Moon out just in time for Shotzi to enter next for her team. She brings in a toolbox. Shotzi starts strong, but she goes for a kick that doesn't look great, allowing Kai to put a stop to her. Babyfaces destroy Kai for a while when Raquel Gonzalez enters and hits like a ton of bricks. Big powerbomb on Shotzi into the wall. Kai and Gonzalez beating down the babyfaces, complete with a leap from one ring to the other by Dakota. Rhea Ripley out next, and we get the large lady face-off, but everyone wakes back up before anything happens there. Ripley grabs a fucking mallet out of the toolbox and hits Kai twice with it. I feel like the announcers really undersold the severity of that weapon, because it's weird because we go from hammer, and we've seen hammer attacks in wrestling, and they're usually pretty brutal, but they just keep going right along, and then Rhea takes her belt off and hits her with it. Like, that's a bit of a step down. Ripley and Gonzalez meet in the middle, and they has fight. Out comes Toni Storm next. She brings in kendo sticks and removes turnbuckle pads. Ooh, she's the hacker of the team. Lots of weapon attacks on the good guys. Then we get this really weird, mistimed synchronization effort when the ladies on the left sit there all day waiting for their spot while the ladies on the right have to get in position. Then they all gotta bump together. That seemed like a bit much for me. Io Shirai is the last of the face team to enter. She keeps bringing in weapons only for Gonzalez to steal them from her and keeping her outside. She tried 4 times to get in and got denied. Candice LeRae shows up last. Shirai yells at her. Indy Hartwell jumps her and she's knocked out. Wow, great look for your champion. Faces are getting destroyed. The ladies break kendo sticks over Shotzi's back. They forget they can't end the match without Io in the ring. Io is now on top of the cage, puts a trash can over herself and dives onto everyone else. The Flying Oscar. Thanks to James Irish on Twitter for the suggestion. I have to say though, I was half thinking that she was going to put the trash can over herself. I'm already dying thinking about it. It's such a funny visual to me, where she puts the trash can over herself, but at this point everyone sees her, gets out of the way, and she just jumps, bam, splats right in the ring to continue the misadventures she's been having so far in this matchup. Murder by Hammer, they are really minimizing the severity of a sledgehammer attack. Triple H runs this brand, right? Faces get a run of big moves, but they can't put Team Candice away just yet. We get a double submission. Candice breaks her own hold to stop Shotzi from making Toni tap out. Candice and Shotzi square off. Candice drops her weapon, awkwardly reaches into the other ring to grab a worse weapon for the circumstance. Shotzi just stands there and lets her do it. Then Candice gets beaten up, huh? Dakota with a double stomp onto Io the Grouch. Kai dinks folks to the chair. Ember hits the Eclipse onto the chairs. Holy shit. Pin's broken up. Then a Storm Zero on a trash can. That pin's broken up. Either of those could have been finishes, I think. Shotzi and Candice fight on a ladder in the ring. Candice falls. Shotzi with a senton from the top right on the chair. Ouch. Fighting in the middle, Io goes for a Hurricane Rana, but Raquel stops her. Hits a nasty looking one-arm powerbomb through the ladder bridge. My God. Gonzalez pins the women's champion and wins for her team. I gotta give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. I wanted to give it more, but there were just too many moments in this match that made me scratch my head and go, well, why'd you do it that way? Why was that choice made in this matchup? Why'd they minimize the sledgehammer attacks? Why did Candice have to drop her trash can lid and trade it for a kendo stick against a chair? Why they have to go through all that trouble to get to that point? So many different things where it just felt like things were too contrived or too like, we got to get this spot in because that's what we have next. And that took some of it away from me. That being said, there were a lot of insane moments in this matchup that I really did enjoy. The good insane moments. I think Raquel Gonzalez is the clear MVP of this matchup. She just dominated from beginning to end. And the fact she got the pinfall over the women's champion in that matchup, that's to me, it rings very similar to Rhea Ripley's coronation at last year's War Games. And so I'm seeing a very similar arc with her. I would not be surprised if she was the next one to unseat Io for the championship soon. The champion Finn Balor tells everyone to enjoy War Games tonight because starting Wednesday, all eyes go back to him. We go to our next match as Tommaso Ciampa takes on Timothy Thatcher in a bit of a grudge match here, and knowing what both these guys are able to do, I'm greatly looking forward to this one. The match begins with some great mat work between both guys, but things get violent in a hurry. Ciampa with some leg attacks and slaps to the face. Great facial expressions by Thatcher all throughout this match, by the way. Thatcher with a big uppercut, which seems to lay Ciampa out, which makes sense because right away from the beginning of the match, they talk about Ciampa's history with injuries, especially his neck injury and whatnot, and this moment here where he gets knocked kind of loopy from the uppercut really plays into that. Thatcher continues the assault, but Ciampa stays resilient. He eventually fights back from the depths. Both men go down after they bump heads. Ciampa's got a great comeback sequence where he just hits you with clotheslines over and over again. Great idea for a bump drill. Superplex by Ciampa. Thatcher fights back, gets the chokehold locked in, but they both tumble out to the floor. Ciampa with a big comeback, which includes a knee that busts open Thatcher's ear. Thatcher hits a German after the rope break, approaches Ciampa's prone body and gives the old bedroom eyes to the camera. Wow, what a look that is. Ciampa counters an uppercut into a backslide, gets Thatcher in the ropes, lots of chops, then finally hits the Willow's Bell and wins. I give it 4 stars out of 5. Like, ooh-wee, what an intense physical matchup this was. Just looked like stiff and snug professional wrestling the way it's meant to be done by these two guys who are so good at that style. Really fun match to watch, even though it got a bit gnarly at times. I also enjoyed the looks these two exchanged after the match was over. Kind of a look of maybe mutual respect or confoundment on the part of Thatcher. Maybe this will turn into an unlikely tag team in the future, maybe? Strap match next as Cameron Grimes takes on Dexter Lumis, who I didn't realize until tonight has actually been in 2 strap matches now this year at NXT. The first one being against Roderick Strong at Great American Bash. Before the match begins, Grimes insists on using his own strap instead of the official one. He jumps Dexter before the bell rings, so he gets a lot of offense in before Lumis fights back, gets a strap around his own wrist, and the match officially begins. Cameron tries to escape, but he gets pulled off the barricade and gets caned right in the throat. Lumis hurls Grimes from pillar to post. Grimes hucks Lumis over the barricade and into the dark abyss, pulls him back in. Grimes grabbing the bag the original strap was in and puts the bag over Dexter's head. Dexter fights to keep the mask on him as he gets rolled into the ring. Grimes whips him with the extra strap until Lumis hits a spine buster. Grimes pulls Lumis into one of the beams that holds up the War Games cage. Grimes gets yoinked off the apron, but he's able to come back with a chair. More back and forth, more whipping. There's a sequence where Grimes gets tied up at the legs and is tripped, lands face first into the chair. Lumis with silence, and he wins. I give it 4.5 stars out of 5, and I give it the extra half star mostly because of how much I was blown away and how this match really exceeded my expectations. I was not really caring about this match going into it, but they made a believer out of me here. It was a great hardcore fight. It wasn't bogged down by the silly stuff from like the Halloween, the haunted house thing they did 2 months ago, and there was no blindfold match stuff going on. There was the blindfold spot, that moment with the bag over his head, but it was all part of the greater story of why Cameron had that second strap and the second bag and everything. I think it was really well done. They told a really good story here, and yeah, it was just a really fun fight. We see the War Games teams getting ready. I thought it would have been great if Pat McAfee had a banner that was like twice the size of either the other ones in that room. Then we see the Undisputed Era getting ready, and they're wearing red. What the hell? The lights begin to flicker. We see some spooky vulture footage and hear the words "tick-tock." Sounds like Karrion Kross making his comeback soon. For the love of God, stay healthy. In your semi-main event, it's a triple threat match, the North American title, as Leon Ruff defends against Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest. As the match begins, Leon gets some good offense on Gargano. Not quite as lucky with Priest, though. The smaller guys work together to take Priest down, but Johnny betrayal is in full effect. Damian warns Ruff to stay out of his way, but he does not listen, gets hit with the razor's edge through a barricade. Priest looking a little remorseful as Ruff is carried off by the refs. Johnny with a nice tornado DDT posting off the rampway. Big sliced bread by Johnny in the ring, but Priest fights back. It's a big clothesline. Suddenly, Leon Ruff returns in a big way. Big run by him here. Then Priest takes Ruff and Gargano down with a double Uranagi. Johnny ties up Priest into the ropes, puts Ruff in the Gargano escape, and Priest is able to get involved in time. Leon kicked by Gargano, who gets chokeslammed by Priest, when suddenly we get an army of Halloween phantoms. Priest fights them off, then another wave of ghosts. Priest dives onto all of them. Ruff comes back and almost steals one, but Priest breaks up the pin. Damian with many kicks to Johnny, goes for the reckoning, but now another ghost-faced gremlin shows up with a lead pipe and decks him. Gargano hits one final beat on Ruff to win and regain the championship, makes him the first ever 3-time North American champ. I give this one 4 stars out of 5. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch, but it wouldn't be a Johnny Gargano takeover match without a lot of extra drama just crammed in there for the heck of it, right? There was a lot of stuff packed into this matchup, but I think it all made sense from a story standpoint. The match was very entertaining, but wait, who's that masked man? It's Austin Theory. It was he all along, Austin. Aw, son of a bitch. Kind of surprising to see Austin here under the mask. Last time we saw him was back in October during his big losing streak. One of those losses actually was to Johnny Gargano. So it'll be interesting if they try and connect that. Like maybe that could be part of the motivation for why he's joining Johnny now to learn the Gargano way. Also, I realized, it's adorable because now Johnny and Candice each have their own stooges. And I wonder if Indy Hartwell and Austin Theory will join them in the Gargano family dinners. We get a commercial for Supercard, which does not make me miss it at all. Then it's time for the main event, the men's War Games match as the Undisputed Era take on Pat's Pack. Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly start things off, very grapply beginnings, and then Pete kicks Kyle's head off and takes over. Kyle ends up catching Dunne in a heel hook when Oney Lorcan comes out next. He and Dunne spend the next few minutes just beating the hell out of O'Reilly. Bobby Fish shows up next to join his tag team partner. They get a good run on the heels. Then Danny Burch shows up third for his team and brings in some plunder. It's cricket bats. O'Reilly gets Burch in another heel hook and Burch is tapping, but it's no good yet. Dunne boots him in the arm to break it up. Then Burch whacks the bat across Kyle's back. Roderick Strong enters next and immediately gets into it with the tag champs and Dunne, but the Pack regain the advantage and all beat up the UE. Finally, Pat McAfee emerges, but before going into the ring, he brings in a bunch of tables, each one with the Undisputed Era logo and each one of their names on it, but they're all upside down for the camera. Who set that up? They set up the tables. Pat with a moonsault to Strong through one of them. Cole's the last one to enter. He fire extinguishes his way into the ring. It's a house of fire. Goes for Pat, but Pete Dunne stands between them. Kyle O'Reilly lays out Dunne with a chair and calls out McAfee. Pat then gets decked by Adam Cole and we has brawl. Pat with a chop block to Cole and a figure 4, but Adam counters it. Nobody told Pat that he can let go of the hold from there too. UE make their comeback. They try and drive Dunne and Burch through one of the tables, but it takes 2 attempts. McAfee fights Cole on the top rope, but Cole pushes him and Pat with a big backwards leap into another table. The UE lay waste to Dunne and Team CAW, then put all their focus on the leader of the Pack. They beat the hell out of him until the rest of the guys recover. A bunch of big moves off the top rope until all 8 guys are down. That's how you do it. Then we get the big moment with both teams on either end looking all mad at each other before the brawl resumes. Pat McAfee with a big swanton from the top of the cage onto everyone else. Back to just Dunne and O'Reilly. Dunne breaks the fingers, hits the bitter end, but Kyle kicks out. Dunne wants to powerbomb him through the last table, but Kyle hits the brainbuster on the metal plate between the rings. He sets up a nasty looking chair spot, but Pat intervenes with the chair of his own. Adam Cole back in it. He grabs the chair but takes a low blow. Pat goes for the punt, but Cole stops him. Goes for Panama Sunrise, but Burch stops him. Bobby Fish tackles Burch through the table with his own name on it. Pat goes for his own Sunrise but gets kicked in the mush. Cole hits the move, but Pat somehow kicks out. How? How is Pat McAfee this strong? Cole wants the last shot, but Lorcan takes the bullet for him. Dunne hits the bitter end on Cole on the top of a chair. Strong takes out Dunne. He and Fish take down Lorcan. Big knee drop by Kyle onto a chair on Lorcan's face, pins and wins. The Undisputed Era win War Games. Another hard-hitting, really physical and brutal-looking War Games match with some insane spots thrown in there. I think Pat McAfee looked great here for his second match in his career. Again, I think he was just made to look very good here. Almost a bit too strong, but I think, again, it works because the team element and whatnot as well. I think Kyle O'Reilly this is his night. This is his match here. He started it. He finished it, and him getting the big win, I think, is a great symbolic gesture, because especially with how he did in that brief singles run against Finn Balor and how good he was there. Nice for him to get the win here. My one thing I think could have made that moment even sweeter for Kyle would have been if, Pat McAfee or Ridge Holland / whoever actually distracted Kyle or cost him that title match, instead of, Kyle losing clean to Finn Balor and then Ridge dumps Adam Cole over the barricade afterward in that takeover match. But besides that, though, I think that was fine. Also, Lorcan and Burch, after having been, kind of like lost in the tag team mid-card shuffle for a long time the last couple of years, I thought it was great to see them in this program, to be winning the tag belts and to be elevated into this spot with Pat's Pack and like the main event thing with Undisputed Era. Great moment for them. I think it's great. They definitely deserved it. So yeah, I think just good stuff all around. My grade for NXT TakeOver War Games 2020 is an A. This is a darn near perfect show. I think it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest TakeOver we've seen all year. My one real gripe about this show is just some of the psychology that took place in the women's War Games match. There's a couple of head scratchers, but I think they made up for those deficits in other great ways in that match. I think every match on the show delivered, in some cases exceeding my expectations. It's overall really fun show. But what did you all think of this show? Was the final TakeOver of 2020 the strongest all year? I want to hear what you all have to say about that in the comment section below. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.